next time I come back to teach. We'll see. We're hoping. Because not being able to speak clearly is certainly a handicap in teaching, but it is what it is. And I use my practice, particularly the skill of equanimity, to just be okay with whatever's going to happen. So maybe a way, let's start with a check-in meditation. And you're welcome to use whatever technique is best for you that you like. Or you could do what we call open awareness and just allow whatever you experience to come to you and just notice it. And I'll do a little bit of guidance, okay? We'll do like 5 minutes. So assuming a comfortable but alert posture that's right for you, and you can do this with eyes open or closed, whatever's best for you. And maybe just start with opening your awareness and just noticing whatever you experience. So you might be aware of sounds coming and going. You might be aware of what you see, either with your eyes closed or open. Or you might be aware of what you see as you think in images when you have a thought. Or you might feel your body, or even be aware of an emotion that you're feeling. So just notice whatever comes up for you and be aware of it. Okay, when you're ready, you might bring your attention back into the room, although it never left the room, right? Would anybody like to share what you experienced? What happened? Yes?
Relief. I just felt good just sitting in one spot and running all day.
Yes.
By choice, and it was just nice to be able to sit a moment.
Yes.
And not do anything else.
Great. Excellent. That's an important experience, because when we want the mind to calm down, the posture of the body is really important. important. And we do this naturally. We're running all day and then we just sit for a moment. And we can watch the mind sometimes begin to calm down as well. So that's great. That's a good thing to do. Yes?
And I really enjoy the solitude and the peacefulness of the temple. Being in the city with barking dogs and horns and traffic and just like sitting here and just being calm is so rejuvenating to me.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Well, and there's something special about a space that's held in silence, even though we're not disconnected from the world. I mean, it's all out, you can hear it, right? We know the dog barking, the traffic, but there is something special about putting ourselves in a space where we surround ourselves with some silence. Yeah, great, excellent. Anybody else like to share what happened? Yes?
I found that the mom is still trying to rehash the day's events.
Yes.
Keep hearing the internal monologue. And it takes taking some conscious effort to come back to the room, to the sounds.
Yes.
Of the room.
Yeah. Well, and sometimes when people report that they're thinking a lot, and that's normal, they'll say, well, I couldn't really meditate. And then, as I said last week, and I'm not being a smart aleck, but how did you know you were thinking about the day?
So I'm catching myself listening to the voices and hearing the voices.
Right. So you were being mindful.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were being mindful. Otherwise, you wouldn't have, you'd still be lost. We'd be saying, hello, right? Wake you up. Yeah. So sometimes we think mindfulness is welcome. We think mindfulness is just focused concentration, but it's more than that. It's really being aware of whatever you're experiencing. Anybody else like to share what they experienced? Okay. The wonderful thing about meditation or mindfulness practice is that only you know what was going on. Thank goodness nobody can read our minds from the outside. So that it's our own little world in a way. And because the mind, so how many people were aware of thoughts? Everybody, yeah. Sometimes we assume that if we're thinking or we're distracted by sounds or sights, that we're not being mindful. But the key is to be able to be aware of what we're experiencing. That's mindfulness. So what I'd like to do is a couple things. I want to review some basics, and then we'll practice again. And then I want to maybe revisit what we talked about last week of rest, active practice and rest, and then spend a chunk of time talking about how can we take this practice out there in our daily lives when we're not sitting in a comfortable, silent place, when we can't stop, okay, we're in the day. It is possible to practice and build the skills of mindfulness right in the moments of our lives. And we can talk about how to do that. So a couple basics. Does anybody remember what the 3 mindfulness skills are? Yes.
See, hear, feel. Is that concentration? All right, that one.
Yep, exactly.
Concentration, clarity, no.
Yep.
So
Yep. Yeah, so concentration, clarity, and equanimity. So, the images, it's like 3 mental muscles that whenever we're training mindfulness, those 3 muscles are working. Concentration is just the ability to choose what to pay attention to. So when we just did that little open awareness exercise, you made some choices about what you were paying attention to. And it is a skill, particularly in a world where our attention is constantly drawn and challenged. So that ability to say, all this stuff is going on, but right now, I'm going to pay attention to this. That's concentration. The second skill is clarity, and it's that ability to know details about what we're experiencing. And in some ways, clarity is what brings richness to our lives. You know, if you go, I was for the first time at our new Jacobs Music Center Symphony Hall on Sunday. Has anybody been there? It's magnificent. They've, totally renovated. And I've been trying to learn to appreciate classical music. So when I walked in, I practiced. I walked in with everybody in the hustle and bustle, but I was really focusing on the details of the room, and it's just gorgeous. And then when the symphony started, it's easy to drift off or be tired or think about other things. Kept coming back with concentration to just really listen to the music. And when I drifted, which I will, I just was aware of coming back. And then the clarity, that skill of clarity I heard sounds I'd never heard before. Elements of, let's say, the oboe, it's not just one sound, it was multiple sounds. I'd never heard that before. And I think whether it be classical music, and I actually love rock and roll and EDM, electronic dance music is my favorite, absolute favorite. So I'm stretching to appreciate classical. But when you're in the midst of music, those skills you're almost using them naturally if you love the music. So you choose what to pay attention to, concentration. Clarity is the detail, it's the tracking your experience. You know when you're thinking, you know when you're feeling calm, you're aware. And then the last one, many researchers in mindfulness will tell us that they think that equanimity is the secret sauce. It's maybe the basic skill of mindfulness. And it's sometimes defined, it's not a term we use much in English, because equanimity often means, well, I'm not bothered by anything, I don't care. But it's not really that. Equanimity is the ability to not push away experience or hang on to it. It is that balance. So we can be aware of a negative experience, like a pain in the knee, or we can be aware of a positive experience, like loving that dish of ice cream. But with equanimity, we neither put all our energy into pushing the pain away, nor do we hang on to the pleasant. Because what happens when you try to push away unpleasant experiences?
It sticks on.
It sticks on. It gets even more tense. Yeah, absolutely. Now, I'm not talking about out in the world. That's one of the confusions. Equanimity is not that we don't do anything in the world, because goodness knows there are situations we have to act, and we should change things in the world. But with equanimity as a mindfulness skill, we don't get caught up in trying to change what we can't change, or hang on to what inevitably is going to slip through our fingers. And in some ways, the equanimity as a mindfulness skill is really one of the secrets of what the Buddha taught about relief from suffering. There's that saying, I didn't like when I first heard it, frankly, that pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. Have you heard that before? Yes. Pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. When I first heard that, I thought, wow, they're blaming me for suffering, Well, no, that's not what it's about. it's not blame, but it is telling us that we can develop skills in how we relate to our experience. That's what equanimity is. In a way that's free, so that we neither have to spend a lot of effort in pushing away the pain or hanging on to something that's good that inevitably is going to go. And when you think about it, when you think about your suffering, it often has to do with you trying to get rid of something you can't get rid of, or change something that you don't want that is not going to change, or we can only have so much enjoyment before it passes. So in a way, suffering is a condition of life, but it is optional if we learn skills of how to relate to what we're experiencing. And this is so important, particularly as we get older, but also when we're young. We have losses, we have physical ailments, we have many things in the world we can't change. But what we can do is we can learn to relate to it with more freedom. So that's what equanimity is. So these three skills, anytime the three skills are working together, and we can train them, concentration, clarity, and equanimity, anytime they're working together, we're being fully mindful. And it gives us a direction of why we can train, or how we can train our minds in mindfulness in order to have more life, which is what I was suggesting last week. So the realm by which we can practice is our own sense experience. And I've talked about this in the previous 3 weeks. One simple way of capturing all of our experience is to label it either see, hear, or feel. See, hear, or feel. And when you think about it, when we're going about the world, we're always seeing and hearing and feeling, right? All day long. And you can catch yourself. Like right now. Label what it is you're experiencing right now.
Here.
Hearing.
Seeing.
You may be seeing. Yeah. You feel your body. Well, it's going to keep changing, right? You'll move from maybe seeing to hearing. And you feel your body. Then we hear. And then we see. So all day long, all of our waking hours, we can very simply label, in a way, what we're experiencing. And therefore, when we do, we're being mindful. We know what we're experiencing when we can label it. So the tools we have are noting and labeling of anything we see, hear, feel. And the noting is just an intentional moment that we spend paying attention. And you can do it right now. Pick some object in the room that's of interest and spend a few seconds really seeing it. And when your attention drifts, just go back to it and really see it. So you just use the skill of concentration, and if you noticed any details that you hadn't noticed before, you were using clarity, and there was other stuff going on which you may have just let be in the background as maybe you looked at the statue or the color. And so we can note is just very simply spending intentionally a few seconds really paying attention to what we're experiencing. And it's the difference between when you see a beautiful tree, glancing at the tree, or really looking at the tree, really focusing on the tree. And that's the noticing as a tool for our mindfulness. And the label that we can give, we can use these 3 simple labels, see, hear, or feel. And when we can label the experience, it not only does it help us focus, it kind of directs the attention back, but it also helps us be clear about what we're experiencing. So we use see, hear, feel in everything we experience. We use the 3 skills, concentration, clarity, and equanimity, to be mindful of what we're seeing, hearing, and feeling. And we have these 2 tools, noting and labeling, in order to help with that. So, is that confusing enough? Enough detail? Okay. Yeah, and this form of practice is a lot more detailed and precise than just focusing on the breath. Focusing on the breath is an ancient and very effective way to train mindfulness. But the problem is that for some of us, the breath is difficult. If you have asthma or allergies like I have, you can struggle with the breath. And the other thing is that, when you're talking in a meeting or you're running, it's a little hard to use the breath as an anchor, okay? So in this form of mindfulness, we can use any of the sense categories, anything we see, anything we hear, or anything we feel as an anchor for our attention. And we make the choice based, again, on our skill of concentration, okay? So rather than me rattle on and on about it, let's go ahead and experience it. And we'll just do what's called a see, hear, feel, everything meditation. And I'll do a little bit of guidance, okay? And the idea is that you can do what you just did at the beginning of the class. Just open your awareness and let whatever comes to you. When you notice it, then note it. Spend a couple seconds. So let's say you feel a part of your body. Let's say you feel your feet. And you can note the feeling. And you can use the label feel. Okay? And then you let it go and open up to whatever comes next. And it could be you hear the sounds outside. Spend just a second really focusing. Maybe use the label here and let them go. And then notice what comes next. Okay? I'll do a little bit of guidance along with it. If you want to assume a mindfulness posture, which is comfortable for you, maybe lengthening the spine so that the mind is alerted to be awake, but relaxing your jaw, relaxing your shoulders, so that you are lengthening and loosening, being alert, but being relaxed. And now allow the attention to move freely, and when you notice where it lands, decide, is it see, hear, or feel? And remember, see can be images when we think, and hear can be thoughts when we talk to ourselves. So decide, is it see, hear, or feel? Spend a few seconds, and then let it go, and notice what comes next. And it's helpful to have a steady pace with noting and labeling if you can. And it may sound, or it may be like something like this. Feel, hear, feel, see, hear, at your own pace. If a particular sense experience captures your attention and you go back, just label it again. Recall that re-noting. And if you find yourself getting sleepy, it is the end of the day, it's helpful to maybe open the eyes if they're closed, or even sit up a little bit more straight. That alerts the mind. So be open to whatever comes to you in your awareness, and note it. Spend a few seconds really paying attention, and maybe use the label. And then let it go and welcome whatever comes next. So we'll do one more minute of practice. Okay, good work. Good work. So, would anybody like to share what you experienced? What happened? Yes.
At first, I was a little judgmental about how fast I was switching. I was like, I have ADHD. Why do I have ADHD? What is going on? And I'm like, oh, that's feel.
Yes. Yeah. So if you couldn't hear what she was saying, she was a little judgmental about how quickly her attention was moving around and switching, and even thinking, oh, maybe I have a little bit of ADD here going on. How many people experience that? Yeah, see, you're not alone. The mind works really, really quickly, and particularly when there's stimulation from the outside. And so, the challenge is, do you want to be in charge of your mind, or do you want your mind to be in charge of you? Well, it's probably both are true. We can't just decide what we're going to think or feel. We think we can, but we can't. Thoughts pop up, and emotions come up, often whether we want them or not. On the other hand, we can train our minds to slow down, particularly if it's jumping around a lot, and we can make choices based on, again, that skill of concentration of what we're going to pay attention to. So, there's often this analogy of the mind to a monkey. So jumping around like a monkey, right? And as we practice, the monkey can settle down. And when you think about it, when you have a newborn baby and you're holding the baby, what do you do to calm the baby, to quiet the baby? You don't get tense and tell the baby, be quiet, calm down, right? And sometimes that's what we think we're trying to do with our minds. But we have to do the same thing. We have to kind of lull the mind into doing whatever it's going to do. And the equanimity is whatever it's going to do is going to be okay. And when you really experience that, it doesn't matter if it's jumping around or if it's real focused and calm. Either way, it's just fine. How about others? Anybody else want to share what you experienced? Were you able to label your experience? Yeah. Great. Yes?
Well, it was nice to be able to focus and really pay attention. I guess that's the clarity.
Yes.
That you mentioned. I was feeling this cool breeze that was blowing in through that window on this cheek.
On that cheek. Yeah. Yeah.
That I probably wouldn't have noticed otherwise.
Yes. Yes.
But it's paying attention and noticing what you're feeling and putting that label on it.
Yeah. Yeah. The label can help.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. What a great experience. I mean, to feel the cold breeze. You could be thinking about the troubles of the day, right? Which is where our minds often go. Or we can not miss that moment of life, which is, really pleasure moment. Yeah, terrific. And that is a good example of you were, when it happened, when you felt the breeze, you were concentrating, choosing to pay attention there, even noticing the clarity of which cheek was feeling it. And then the equanimity is undoubtedly other things were going on, sounds and things in the body, and those could just be in the background as you let that experience be there. So fantastic. And that's what can happen as we get more skillful. We can turn that kind of attention to more areas of our life, to have more life, basically. Would anybody else like to share what you experienced? How many people felt it was a challenge to do? Okay, great. Yep, absolutely. And maybe, like she just said, maybe that awareness of the mind, attention just jumping around, can be uncomfortable. But again, as you label even just one of the sensations, let's say you just heard the sound of a car, and you could label it. And if you could start that pacing with the labels, it can calm the mind down as well. So what we just did was called See, Hear, Feel Everything, because we are using our awareness to be aware of the sights in the environment, images that come up when we think, because thinking is visual, right? Sounds in the environment that we hear all around us, and the sounds that we hear when we think, because thinking is also auditory. It's visual and auditory. And we can use the label for hear for both. And then the feel is the feeling of the body, the sensations, but it also can be the emotions. So with this very simple labeling of see, hear, feel, and using those three skills, we can begin to appreciate and be mindful of everything we experience. So, last week, I'm not sure I did a great job of giving you an experience of rest. So I want to revisit that tonight because, what many people come to meditation with the goal of, I want to calm down, right? I'm so stressed and tense all the time that I understand that meditation can help me calm down. That may be one of the number one reasons people come and want to learn to meditate. Well, what we don't always realize is that we always have a restful experience within our own bodies. It's always there, we just don't notice it. And I can give you an experience of it right now. For example, if you take your fist and squeeze it, you can feel the activation of the muscles, right? There's tension. And then just slowly release your hand and note what that feels like. Tension, rest. So within the body, there are always areas of the body that are restful. We just don't notice it. So right now, maybe you can just explore that for yourself. If you're comfortable closing your eyes, you can do that, or leave your eyes open, and just scan your body and notice if there's any areas that are more neutral and that we could actually call restful. It might be your feet resting on the floor. It could be your earlobes. Maybe you can feel your earlobes. And for contrast, crunch your shoulders up and then drop them and pay attention to what it feels like when you release the shoulders. Really note that experience. That's the rest. And you also can note rest at the end of the out-breath. So paying attention to the in-breath, and then the out-breath is letting go. Follow it all the way to the end. And that can be rest. So, where did you experience rest? Anybody want to share? Yes.
Probably in my feet. And at the end of the day, I usually go over to Coronado and just take a walk. And so I'm really kind of aware now of like touching the sand, touching the dry sand, touching the wet sand, and just like really being aware of what I kind kind of almost a sensual experience that is.
It is sensual. Yeah, yeah.
And it's very relaxing.
Yes.
You know, without any kind of drugs or alcohol. It's like, wow, I'm really
Yes, that's
just walking on the sand, and I hear the surf, and my legs are relaxing, and my feet are relaxing.
Yes.
So and it stays with me for hours. So
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
just like I'll go out of my way, like I have, even fighting the traffic today a little bit to get there early with the Padres game and then to be back
Yes,
here. So
exactly.
and I'm like, it's still worth it. I
Yeah.
still want to do it. It's
Yeah.
a benefit of that.
Yeah. Because you're choosing what to pay attention to. And again, within our sensual experience, see, hear, or feel, there's always some area of rest. You know, what do people do naturally when they're really overwhelmed? We often will just close our eyes, right? I mean, do that right now. Close your eyes and notice the dark. That can be a seed rest. And if you go into a quiet room, when I'm in big cities, I often will go into a church just for a few minutes because it has the same sense as this temple, that it's quiet. And just allowing myself to hear the quiet, the rest, can calm my mind and body down. So the idea is that, you know, we're using see, hear, feel to explore the world, but we can also use the same set of skills to focus on those parts of the body, those sense experiences that give us rest. And when you get used to doing it, you can actually choose rest anywhere you're at. If you're in a heated argument with somebody, you can still be paying attention to what you're saying, but you can, in the background, focus on some area of the body that's restful. And it can actually bring the heat down, okay, your heat. So that rest as a experience, as a mindfulness practice, can really be, it can meet that goal many of us have to calm down in daily life. And again, you could be walking on the sand in Coronado thinking of all the problems and troubles of the day, but you can turn your attention to that sense experience, as you did with the breeze on the cheek, and you have a whole different experience. And again, that is a choice we can make, but we have to practice to be skillful. So let's talk about how we can use this practice. We just talked about what the practice is. We've done it. And there's many different, in this form of what's called unified mindfulness, there are over 40 techniques. And I've taught 2 here, basically. You know, we would take a lot of weeks to learn all the techniques. But what it speaks to is that we can actually learn techniques that we can apply in anything we're doing during the day. So, you know, traditionally we talk about, when we say we meditate, usually people will think we sit and we're quiet. We may have our eyes closed or open, but we spend a good amount of time really doing a practice, a technique. And we can call that formal practice. And that usually we define it as 10 minutes or more of sitting and doing a technique. And it's really a training. And it's important to do that because the mind, you know, particularly if we don't train the mind, it just does what it does. So a daily sitting practice and getting used to it. And, you know, if it's new to you, start out with 3 minutes. Usually I will say to students, they'll say, okay, I'm going to do 30 minutes tomorrow. And you know what's going to happen? You know, you'll be tortured for 29 of them, right? And you probably won't do it the next day or the day after. So start small. If you're new to a sitting practice, give yourself with a timer 3 minutes, and don't do more than that. And then if that works out well for a week, expand it to 5, and then you can go on from there. So that sitting practice is really important because it's a training of the mind. But equally important is what we call daily life practice. And it's sometimes they're called micro hits. Micro hits. And a micro hit means it may be a few seconds or a couple minutes of doing what we did at the beginning, of choosing something to pay attention to, and bringing our noting and our labeling. Labeling is optional, but at least the noting to the experience. So throughout your day, whatever you're doing, you don't have to stop what you're doing. You can actually just bring attention, as you do with your walking on the beach. You can just use it as a mindful moment, a micro hit. So what comes to mind of daily routines that you do that you could just bring some mindfulness practice to it while you do it? What's a routine you do every day that you could practice? Yes?
Commuting.
Commuting. Yeah. Ellie, right? Yeah.
I was thinking about brushing my teeth.
Well, you were just saying earlier, though, she had an hour and a half commute to get hour and 40 minutes from Carlsbad. So, you could spend the whole hour and 40 minutes resenting the traffic, thinking about it's that Padres game, and I hate the Padres anyway. You could spend the whole hour and 40 minutes tortured, and who knows why people drive the way they do, and why they drive so slow. Or you could use that time to practice. Okay? So commuting is a great way to practice. And one of the great things about when we practice with eyes open, getting used to doing that, you can actually do mindful driving. So you're driving along, and you don't have to do an hour. You can do a few minutes, or even a minute. What are you seeing? See. You hear the traffic. Hear. You feel your hands on the steering wheel. Feel. You see the traffic. You're actually training those 3 skills. You're concentrating, you're having clarity, and you're having equanimity because things are coming and going, and you're choosing what to pay attention to. So you can, yes?
I have a question. What's the difference between feel and touch?
Great question. Yeah, we use the term feel to include all the physical senses.
Okay.
So it's touch, taste,
Oh.
our sensation of heat, so anything that's physical, including some of us how many people have tinnitus? Anybody here? Okay. So tinnitus is just a ringing in the ears. I hear it right now. And it's like my little friend. Okay. So any physical sensation is feel, for simplifying it. Yeah. What are other? So that you were saying, brushing your teeth. Yeah, actually, that's the one I started out doing when I was learning micro hits, because you do it. Hopefully, you do it every day, maybe twice a day. And, we can, and, actually what helped is my dentist. At one point I was wearing my gums away because he said to me, your toothbrush is not a weapon. Okay? Think of it as it's not a weapon. So, and, when I realized, well, I could do a micro hit when I brush my teeth. So I still do it. It's a way to kind of stop in the moment, feel the taste. I see myself brushing. You may not hear it, but you might. And you can do it for 30 seconds or a minute. And again, not only are you calming the mind as you practice, but you're developing the 3 skills. I'm choosing what to pay attention to. I'm actually feeling the brushing, clarity, and I'm not, I'm not gripping it like a weapon, okay? I'm not trying to control it. I'm just letting it move. What other experiences during the day could you use as a microhit?
This is almost similar to being with showering, because then you can like smell,
Yes.
so.
Yeah, the shower, which it could be seen as, well, I'm just got to get in here and get out. But it is such a sensual experience, and you could just, for moments, or a lot of the shower, feel what senses might you experience?
The water going down on you, and then if you move, depending on where the water's hitting you, you're washing your hair, the sense that you get from that.
Right.
Scratching your scalp.
Yeah.
Whatever it may be.
Yeah, whatever and again, you can very simply use the label feel. You could feel the warmth or the cold. You could smell the smell of soap. You could hear the water running. It could be actually really soothing if you listen to it and then as you feel movement, you could feel as well. And you're seeing. We finally remodeled the bathroom and have a rain shower head, which I love. I've always wanted one. So when I stand under it, it's really like raining. So that's a perfect time. So the point of all this is that any routine that you have, eating, walking, you can take just moments. You don't have to do 20 minutes. I mean, you can if you want. But as you were sharing, you're walking on the beach, you're walking the dog, let's say it's a chore every day, and instead of thinking about work, just spend a couple minutes. See, hear, feel, notice what you're experiencing and how much it opens up life. You can also do this when you're talking with someone, believe it or not. We call it background practice, but you're paying mostly attention to what you're talking with someone, but you can also then do a moment of rest in the background. Just feel the restfulness for a moment. It's a microhit. And that may actually allow you to focus and be more present, or calm down if you're getting heated about a discussion. So you're in the doctor's office and you're nervous and notice all the anxious people. You could just do a quick micro hit of the plant in the corner or the picture on the wall. And let's do a couple micro hits right now before we end. Pick any of the senses, see, hear, or feel, and spend maybe 30 seconds choosing what to note and maybe label. And now switch your attention to something else. And again, note and maybe label. And now let that go. And now choose something else. See, hear, or feel. Okay, you just meditated, okay? And most people, most of the way we're traditionally taught is if we don't sit down, spend a big chunk of time focused on one anchor, one sentence, usually the breath, it was great to use, but this allows us to have a practice that we can do anywhere, anytime. And what makes it mindfulness is, again, we're developing those three skills. We're choosing what to pay attention to. We're giving ourselves noting and focusing so that we're really having some clarity about what we're experiencing, feeling breeze on the cheek, or, a pleasant sensation of the sand on the feet, or even a thought, a pleasant thought that we see, that dessert you love. Allow yourself to think about it. Those micro hits can be a form of training as well. So, we're out of time. I want to thank you for showing up tonight, and if you were able to come in the other series, my intention is to come back. I've been invited back at some point. Hopefully, the surgery tomorrow will be successful, and I'll have a voice back, and that'll make it easier. Okay, and I'll start teaching maybe some of the other techniques that add to this practice. So a couple resources before we end. This is called Unified Mindfulness. There's a website. You just have to Google Unified Mindfulness. There's a free core, it's called the core training. It's a very short little cartoon training of these skills. And then it's a really rich platform of techniques and resources. So it's Unified Mindfulness, and you can Google it. And that's probably the best resource to keep this kind of training going. Okay, I think we have some announcements before we end.
Hello everyone, I am Allie, tonight's host. We opened the Dharma Temple 18 years ago to introduce Buddhist practice to those who show up. Those who lead are not nuns, monks, gurus, masters, or teachers, and are not looking for students. They are simply practitioners sharing their interpretation of the practice. Every night we have different classes led by different people from various Buddhist traditions. We have a recovery sangha that meets several times a week for anyone with addiction, and our food redistribution program is every Thursday at 4:30 p.m. We have classes and programs every day, and everything we offer here is always free. The full schedule is on our website and also posted in the entryway above the shoe rack. We have a lending library. If you see a book you like, feel free to borrow it and then bring it back whenever you're done with it. Please straighten your seat or cushion before you head out. If a few people can stay and close and latch the windows, that would be helpful. Thank you for being here. We wish you well and hope to see you all again soon.
Thank you, Ellie. And thank you, everyone.